So this kid, whatever he did, he went through several steps before he got the parent return from Mr. Rollins. Mr. Rollins said he could have sent the kid home for 2 or 3 days at the house, but he's putting on parent return today. Cop is going to bring him home. And, the kid had been disrespectful, talking back to the teacher, refusing to do what he's told, disrupting the class, out of his seat, and that kind of stuff, and had a history of that behavior. Several steps had already been taken to discipline the child, in which time he had been, warned by the teacher and then thrown out of class, for timeout, and then the hour sitting with Mr. Rollins, and all that kind of stuff. Before he got put on a parent return. So, there's a progressive disciplinary practice. Before you get to 3-day suspension. Kids in my class said that I should have just taken Jacob back to school. I do that, I'd have to sit there and argue with Miss Barker. And she'd probably call the cops and all this stuff. I could try. Pick him up and take him there. He doesn't have on his uniform. His uniform's in the suitcase in the back. I could go pick him up and take him from there and say, look, you're not doing this. Suspended him. But she said she's already suspended 3 other kids. Nick went home yesterday. Two boys the day before, and I will subpoena their write-up. Prove disparate treatment, and I doubt very seriously so they're terminating all of their referrals. There's supposed to be an appeals process also. Progressive discipline also supposed to be used. So the history of the child. If the child has a history of the same kind of behavior, and usually history interaction is 1 day suspension. Would have been maybe if Jake had been maliciously misbehaving. maybe 1 day suspension, but not 3. Didn't know. The goal is to teach the children to correct their behavior. Punishment that is appropriate and necessary as a consequence is one thing, but severe reactions that, it's bizarre, and I think it's probably some little treatment plan. You know what? I'm just going to get a handbook and just going to start going down to the courthouse and filing lawsuits. That's all I can do. And I'm going to have to do it myself if they get thrown out of court that day. Back to school. That's it. Get the most out of it, but Jake told me I don't want to go back there, and he didn't want to go back there today either. It was so traumatic. He was just bawling for an hour and a half, and then Mrs. Baker was sitting there while he was crying, asking him questions. He was afraid to say no, because they were jumping down the throat the way they were. His workers had terrible things to do. He was lucky that I wasn't going to pick him up and send him a call. She was going to call the police. She was going to add another day. His expression was the way I talked to him on the phone, that Jake and I were both in a bad situation now. The way I talked to her on the phone. She's going to suspend him another day because of the way I talked to her on the phone. That I insulted her intelligence. She told Miss Sledge that I said I was going to file a lawsuit. She was telling all the teachers that. And she called the children's parents and called them, and they were outraged by the behavior. So, autistic girls that would run into her saying this stuff about Jake. Jake doesn't want to go back there. He's worried about him going back there on Wednesday because he's going to be reporting himself now.